that this is the Pack Essentials with the Masters with Barbara Luther. And I'm going to admit all now. Here we go.
Can you admit all? Yes, you can.
Mhm.
Well,
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hannah wins. She was first. Hi, Hannah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lots of faces and names.
I know. It's nice to see old friends.
Yes, it is.
There's
A new
Xavier,
one.
Rosemary, Liz.
Muted. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
good morning.
Morning, afternoon, evening.
I know, eh?
2 minutes. We are recording now. We have you all on mute. We're going to give the full amount of time for everyone.
Yeah, we're gonna give people a few minutes. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I hear that ADDers are sometimes late.
No, never.
No.
Too many of them are actually early because of anxiety. That's me.
Well, isn't that true?
Yep. Hey there. It's fun to see all the
Yeah, look at
familiar faces I don't get to see often. It's great to see everybody again. That's great. All right.
there's Vidya, and I see David Rose.
Yep. Lots of familiar faces.
Mhm.
There. That's great. I can't tell
Okay.
how many we have on, so
Oh.
we'll just have to wait.
Naima just sent us a heart.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, lots of hearts.
Nice. Lori's there. Sarah just is joining us. Alex came in a moment ago. This is the first moment of silence I've ever had in an ADHD meeting. Hey. The power of the pause.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So should we get started? I have 1 minute after.
Should we give them one more minute? What do you say, Deirdre?
Fine with me. We have enough time to do that. Sometimes people have some technical issues too, so I'd certainly like to give them that chance.
I'm always the technical person.
It worked. Waiting.
We try to be patient, but we ADDers aren't very patient. So
No, we're not.
it's nice to pause and give everybody a chance to take a breath and be ready. So that's a good thing. I'm sure it does take everybody a little bit to get in and get ready. So it's thoughtful to do that.
Okay, I think we'll get started. Does that sound good to you, Catherine?
Yeah.
Oh.
Kristen was saying Eventbrite makes it hard to get in.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is a challenge. But I agree, let's get her started. And people can
Okay.
join us.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Very nice of you to make time for us. Thank you so much. My name is Deirdre Donovan. I'm co-marketing for PAC along with Catherine. This is our second of 5 presentations that we're calling Essentials with the Masters. And I'm just a little bit of a guide. I'm going to have a protocol of an opening word and a closing word. I'm going to put the email address for you to send that to. And that is for anybody who wants a continuing education credit with PAC. And we're going to take about 45 minutes or so to have a conversation and a presentation. And we will take your questions in the chat, which is on the lower right-hand corner. It's a little talk bubble, and I'll be monitoring that. And Barbara will be controlling her presentation slides so that when she does that, you will not see her, but you will be able to hear her. We do have you all muted. The way you communicate is through this. This has been being recorded, and that recording will be made available on our website shortly. Okay, and then you can also use the info@paccoaches.org. If you have questions or if you had trouble getting in the meeting, share that with us so that we can improve. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deirdre. I'm so glad to have you with us for this second of the 5 essentials. And I'm very excited to have Barbara with us, but let me do a little bit of business first. If you want a CEU, we will have, as Deirdre said, an opening word and a closing word. What you do is you write the opening and closing word on an email and send it to info@paccoaches.org. This is for your PAC renewal, and this will be due for most people in December 31st, but you can upload your CEUs onto your dashboard for those of you who are already members, okay? So with no further ado, let me say what the opening word is. The opening word is coach, as we all are. Coach, easy one to remember. All right, good. So I believe, oh yes, great. Okay. Then let me introduce Barbara Luther like she needs an introduction. So many of us know Barbara, but Barbara is impressive to say the least. So let me read my little bio of her momentarily here before we all wax eloquent about Barbara. Barbara is Master Coach Barbara Luther, MCAC, MCC, and she is truly a pioneer in the coaching world. She trained with Thomas Leonard and then taught at Coach U for many years. And Barbara was at the forefront of establishing coaching as a profession. After training hundreds of coaches and seeing tremendous numbers of clients, Barbara shifted her focus to the world of ADHD and moved on to become the director of training at the ADD Coach Academy, ADCA. Barbara, an inattentive herself, has a deep passion for the struggles faced by individuals with ADHD. Her mission to change the lives of ADDers for the better is achieved through her diligent attention to the most recent scientific developments in ADHD research and dedication to training the best ADHD coaches possible. Barbara, I'm so grateful to say is my friend, and and so many, yes, there's all sorts of people going yay and sending signals to you, Barbara, in case you can't see them. And many at ADCA call her mom because she has been so foundational in their training. And she's just, I can't say enough good words about her. So without further ado, we will say, welcome, Barbara Luther. And we love to hear you talk about safety.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's a far better introduction than than I'd recognize or deserve, probably. Sound like an impressive person.
You are.
So we'll see what we can cover here. Thank you. I'm really excited about this topic around safety and this essential, because it is so essential. So I'm going to throw my slides up here, just see if that helps. And let me see if I can do that easily enough here. There we go. Make sure you can see. Good. Okay. And just quickly some objectives so that you have a sense of what we're going to cover. I do want to review the elements and purpose of this safety essential. It's one of the 5 essentials, and talk about the safety's place in the coaching process, the ADD coaching process. And then, of course, we'll answer some questions. So we'll see how far we can get with that today. And I want to be sure that you have actually paid attention to what the safety essential says. So I put it up here. With a deep understanding of the highly sensitive nature of most individuals with ADHD, the coach created an environment of acceptance, trust, where the client could be open, honest, and free from fear and judgment. The client clearly knew that the coach understood the challenges and strengths of a person impacted by ADHD. I'm not very good with graphics, but I tried to overlay the ADHD lens graphic that we created at ADCA with the safety graphic that we have, because everything starts with, as what David talked about last time, with the ADHD lens. Everything starts there. We always have to have that lens. It's obviously the first essential, at least in my mind. And then safety is, they're all equally essential, but safety then builds upon that. And that's why I tried to overlay the 2 graphics. You start with that lens. You never take the lens off, as David said. And then you have to have that safety, and you create that safety before coaching starts, during and throughout a coaching session, and afterwards as well. You can't ever not be creating safety for your client. Especially with ADHD, because if a client obviously doesn't feel safe, they're not going to trust. You don't have a relationship. And for me, within ADD coaching, safety is everything. Safety is, safety is everything. It is essential. I actually love that the PAC has, when the powers that be started creating the essentials and came up with the term essentials, I thought it was just brilliant. ICF uses the word competencies, and that's, it's a wonderful word, but essentials is truly what these are. These are essential for coaching. And I just think it's such a more important concept. You can't coach without these essentials. Safety is so essential for ADHD, to be there to create that safe space, because that's what safety is talking about, is creating the space, being present for your client in a way that they feel totally, as it says here, that they feel accepted, that they feel trusted, so that they can be open and honest. Because especially for our ADDers, I think I'm going to undo the slide here for a minute and just talk at you here. If our clients don't feel safe, they're not going to be able to tell you what their experience is. They're not going to be able to say, yes, I know what to do, but I can't do it. And that's so often the reality for them. They know what to do. They don't know why they can't do it, right? And that's hard for them to say. It's hard for them over and over again to come in and say, yeah, I want to do this, but I can't. And that feels so hard because of the, because they have tried so very hard for so many times, to have to say that again to somebody that might not understand. They can just barely bear it. And so to come to a coach and be afraid that they might be judged once more, they're so brave to just show up and to come and say, I don't know why I can't do it. Okay? Because I know what to do. And that's why safety is about respect. Okay? And understanding how much they do already know, giving them credit for that and believing them, not saying, oh, here, you need a plan. Let's help you walk through a plan. They know how to do that. They know what they want to do. They're motivated. They're showing up trying to pay you money. Okay? It's not that they don't want to do things. They want to be responsible most of the time. Okay? They may not really care about those things, but they want to be responsible people. Okay? They don't understand how their brain works. Okay? They don't know how to work with their brain, and they feel a lot of often shame and blame about that. So there's a lot of strong emotion that they're dealing with, and we've got to create safety for them to be able to talk about that, to be able to feel safe enough to feel that they can be heard and understood. Okay? So when they tell us a story, because they don't understand what their brain is doing, that we can ask questions to help them learn about what their brain is really doing. Okay? Because we don't know either exactly what their brain is doing. All we can do is ask questions to help them explore and understand their brain. Okay? Doesn't matter if we figure it out, but they've got to look at their brain and go, oh, my brain is doing this. And when I do this and this, I can help my brain. Okay? I have systems and strategies that work sometimes. I just don't pay attention to when those strategies work. Okay? And now if I go back and look at examples, oftentimes I can say, oh, here I can help my brain and I can do the things I want to do. But they haven't paid attention to that. So our questions make such a difference. But we've got to know how to ask those questions in curious ways, in safe ways, to help our clients so that they can learn about their own brain. Okay? And I know at ADCA, we try really hard to give you a really good ADD education. And sometimes our students come away so full of knowledge about ADHD that they want to share, that they're overflowing with it. And they want to educate so much, and they jump to educate almost too fast. And clients do want to learn about their brains, but they only need the knowledge at the moment, right? They just need enough to know what's going on right then. If they want a whole education, come and get educated. But the clients need just tidbits of information at a time. That's all they can take in. So we want to always ask permission, and that's part of safety too, is asking permission. Do you want to understand what's going on? Okay. So first, though, safety is about asking, what do they already know? Okay. What do they want to know? And really checking to see what, give them credit for the knowledge they have. Explore always with them what they do know, what they want to know. Learn that first. Always give them all of that credit. That's part of, I think, very much part of safety. And I add to that and think of that as part of being respectful of our clients. It's part of safety too, is being very respectful of how much do they know. Now, having said that, our clients can tell us exactly what their experience is if we're listening. They tell us in story many times, but they can tell us their experience. However, that doesn't mean they know what's going on. That's the interesting part, right? They can tell us they're interested. They can tell us when I'm interested, I don't have any trouble, but they don't necessarily know what that means. Okay? So it sounds like they are very self-aware. They can describe their situation, but they don't know what that really means to apply it. So they do need education to some extent. So, but our job then is to help them understand what they've told us, right? To help them realize the impact sometimes of what they've said. So just because they can describe it doesn't necessarily mean they know what to do with the knowledge. Okay? So there's a difference there. So again, you're going to be looking at 3 other essentials, and one of those is collaboration, and which is also so very important or essential to collaborate with them, to partner with them, to learn so much. What do they want to learn, and how do they want to collaborate to integrate that knowledge they're getting? We're going to head into that one next, and I think that partnership is so very key. What do they want to learn, and how do they want to put it together? But let's stay on safety. I'll go back to my slides here. If I can figure out how to do this. Okay, let me see here. So if you look at the PAC Essential, under the description, you'll see these key words. And some of these keywords I think are very useful for us. When we're creating safety, we're creating space for them to process. We're creating connection. Trust, obviously, to me is a huge one. Acceptance, again, they can't ever, ever, ever feel an iota of judgment, okay? If they feel ever any judgment whatsoever, you've lost them. They want to know that we care. And that's why I say safety starts even before the session. And as we start a session, the fact that we check in with them and see, are they in a great space to start a session? Are they ready for coaching, or are they ruminating, or are they, in an emotional flood? Well, they can't be coaching. They're not ready for coaching if they're not in a great space. So our caring about them and checking just at the beginning of a coaching session is demonstrating our care. And that to me is very much a part of a coaching session. So that fits in. Checking in with their energy as they start, and sharing our positive energy with our clients, because energetically they can go up and down. Checking the energy of their environment is so key, because environment is so impactful for our kinds of clients, right? If they're not living in a healthy, energetic environment, that can have a huge impact on how their ADHD is impacting them. So checking on that is so key as well. As any of you know that spend any time with me, I'm a big proponent of humor. I think we need to use humor so much when we're coaching. It lightens things, it opens the brain to be more receptive for learning, and it just makes everything lighter and more fun. So, and it's such a high strength often for so many ADDers. So we want to enlist humor as much as we can, and I do think it creates more safety and space for our clients. So I think it's a great keyword to have under this. Authenticity. ADDers must have authenticity. They can sniff out when anything is not. So I think we can almost replace safety with authenticity. Those 2 words have to go together. And we do need to be appreciative. Appreciation is also part of acknowledging our clients, acknowledging how they're showing up, who they're trying to be, appreciating how hard they're trying to do things. I don't think we ever acknowledge enough. And when we do that, we are creating safety for our clients. We're creating awareness for them of who they are. And again, our ADDers are so often trying so hard and not being given any credit for that, and certainly not giving themselves credit for how hard they're trying and doing things. So appreciation is another piece I think is very important to think of in terms of safety. Celebrating with them, even when they don't want to anchor the positives and the successes and wins is so key. And inviting them to relax sometimes when relaxing may even be too boring for them to think about doing, but still encouraging them to take breaks so that there's some balance there. Getting them to breathe obviously is so important, and understanding obviously is, again, that one is another one I think. If you're hearing them explain what's going on and you're not getting what's happening, if you really don't understand, if your question is clueless, that's when they're not going to feel safe. If they're describing their ADHD experience and you really aren't grasping it, they know that you're not hearing them, and that's why your ADD lens is so essential. You've got to go, yep, I've heard that ADHD experience before. Yes, I get that this has happened before. And you can ask questions from, yes, so when ADDers describe their experience, yes, it's their experience, and you want to hear how they're interpreting it and that sort of thing, but to act like you've never heard it before or something like that's not that's not going to help them feel safe. So you want to get their experience and their interpretation, but they've got to feel that you do recognize it, okay, in order to feel safe. And I think sometimes I will hear young coaches act like they don't recognize it, or maybe they don't recognize it because they're still learning the ADHD, but that will turn off an ADDer, again, just as though the coach doesn't get ADD. So be really careful. That's a key piece. That's why the ADD lens is so key. We've got to understand what the impact of ADHD, where all it is impacting them. So that's another one. I add positive regard and respect here because I do think sometimes we don't give our ADDers enough credit for how much they know and for being true equal partners with us in the coaching relationship. We're thinking partners, and we've got to give them full credit for how much they know and care and are trying. And so we've got to be very, very respectful. So I always try to add that in for myself. So again, these are great keywords to think of in the terms of safety. So just to try to give you some concepts there. So at ADCA, we've tried to break some of these things down to just kind of say, when we're listening for safety, here are some of the things we're kind of listening for from our students. We want to hear that indeed they're receiving the client with respect, that they're respecting the client's talents and perspectives and what they're already capable of, the knowledge that clients already come with and their insights. We want to be reflecting back everything that the client brings. So that's celebrating successes and wins. That's giving back the key things that we're hearing from clients. Always, we're coming from a coaching mindset, obviously. So that's staying in a good coaching mindset is so key. Processing space. Our ADDers many times are verbal processors. They need to process in order to get their thoughts out. So understanding that as an ADD coach, giving that space, but also helping them to hear themselves. That's part of safety too, is appreciating when to let them process and when to interrupt and reflect back so they can hear themselves, hear their own words. That's that's a key skill for an ADD coach as part of safety is helping them to learn to be succinct, to get clear, because an ADDer that just talks and talks and talks gets lost. They don't always hear themselves. So knowing how to interrupt respectfully, get permission to interrupt, but knowing when and how to do that and what to give back to them that's truly going to be useful is an incredibly important skill that makes a difference in safety, I think. So that's a piece we look for. Being present with our clients' intense thoughts and emotions. We know ADDers have intense emotions. And I find this one really interesting. Clients, it doesn't matter the emotion, in my mind, what clients' emotion is, it's about the intensity of their emotions. And yes, the emotions have information for them, but it's also helping them deal with the intensity of that emotion and understanding how to bring that intensity down, helping them to learn to be curious about that intensity so that they can learn to manage that, because they're often afraid of their own intensity, and helping them to be with that and then be curious about the information of the emotion, and not being afraid of it ourselves, just to be with it, not trying to fix it in any way. We're not there to fix anything, okay? We're there to be with it, and help them to learn what they want to learn from it. So holding, again, the space is so important. Emotion is so key to being human. There's nothing wrong with emotion. There's information in it, okay? But we've got to be comfortable and can't get hooked ourselves. So we've got to do a lot of self-care ourselves to be able to be in a good space to be with our clients in their intense emotions and thoughts. So that's a part of safety. And of course, we do a lot of educating when our clients don't understand their ADHD and how their brain works. But always, always, we beat our students over the heads, I think, that they have to ask permission before they educate. And they should do that only after they see what the client already knows and wants to know. So always ask permission before you educate. Don't jump in and start educating first. Your clients will glaze over and you've lost them for one thing. And that destroys safety, I think, as well. So always asking permission before you're going to educate or share even resources. Be sure the client wants it. Otherwise, you're interrupting their processing. And so that's a key piece of safety. And when you think, oh, I've got a resource, I've got something that will help the client, believe me, most of the time you're wrong. So you're far better off to hold that and see what the client knows and wants and thinks and what their ideas are. And then afterwards, if you still feel the need, then offer it. But last, not first, is always the way to go. And usually you'll find that yours probably wouldn't have worked anyway by that point. So far better to hold on to that. We have a really strong desire to help, but again, when we have that desire to help, there's a dark side to that, and I think we have to remember it's a beautiful thing to want to help, but what does that say about what we think of the client? So we want to give them credit again for how much they know and how capable they are. Okay. And when we look to them to find their own answers, that's the important piece. Showing them that they can find their own answers. They have their answers, and their answers are the only answers that are really going to work for them. So yes, we prime the pump sometimes when they go blank, or when they think of 5,000 things, therefore can't think of anything. We throw out suggestions to prime the pump so that they can think of one thing. But we're just doing that I think of that as throwing out a model or a template to get them started, but that's not giving them the answer. That's saying, oh, some clients think of this, or here's one idea. Now, how does that get you started? We do that, okay? But that's when they go blank. That's not saying, I have your answer. It's a big difference there, okay? So that's something that I hope helps a little bit. Of course, in coaching, we're always wanting to start from a topic and an outcome, and we include that under safety. You can't have a coaching session without knowing what the topic is the client wants to work on and where they want to go with it. So we include that under safety. And of course, compassion. I hope that compassion fits under safety. I can't imagine it not fitting under there. And compassion is so different from empathy. And I think sometimes people get those two confused a little bit, or sympathy. But compassion is saying, yes, I see the challenge. Yes, I see your situation. And, how can I support you? What do you want to do? It's saying, yes, I see it. And what is it that we can do to support you, and where do you want to go with it? It's active, okay? That's what compassion is. It's not being stuck with them. I always think of compassion, and I talk about it all the time, of holding our clients in our hearts, but we're not on the same side of the fence with them. If we're on the same side of the fence with our clients, then we can't help them. We're stuck with them. So we've got to stay on the opposite side of the fence, even though we're holding them in our hearts. And that's, I think, really important. And helping our clients brainstorm sometimes when their ideas are flying about, helping them brainstorm and capture that down is part of safety, because they don't realize how much they kind of get to swirling in their heads and don't realize they need to pull it down into something concrete. So inviting brainstorming sometimes creates a lot of safety for them, a comfort to be able to say, oh, I've got it now, I've captured it in some way. Now that actually does create some comfort and safety when you've done the brainstorming and captured it. So there's a great deal of value there, I think, when we invite that, and if they want it. That's why we say just invites, okay? And I don't know why we put this one last, which shouldn't be, but inspires hope with awareness of strengths. Obviously, we're all strengths focused, and there's everything to do with inviting strengths and pointing out strengths always. ADDers, of course, especially often when we start with our clients, don't see strengths, deny strengths, discount strengths, don't want to take time for strengths too often. And yet that's so essential, because that's what we want to build their lives on, right? We don't want to build lives on weaknesses. We can't build life on weaknesses, but we've got to be very clear why we're doing that. And I find I have to, this is where I often have to talk more about neuroscience than any other place, is we have to help them see and find their strengths and successes and wins and build on those, because that's what we want to put in the brain. That's what we want to use to change the brain. And if we don't anchor those, if we don't capture those and make those stickier, That's not what's going to change the brain. Something else is, not what they want. So that's why I spend so much time on strengths. All right. We're doing that very consciously. That's why we start with successes and wins. That's why we highlight and spend time over and over again, grabbing strengths and anchoring them and saying, hey, how are we going to remember this? How are we going to use this strength again? Oh, yeah, what worked? Oh, yeah, let's celebrate that. Oh, yeah, let's take that in. We're doing that very consciously, okay, because that's what we want to build upon. That's what we want the focus to be. That's what we want the brain to use to create more of. All right. And it's not going to do that unless we make those good things stickier. All right. That's solid neuroscience. So explaining that to the clients, even though they don't think it's worth their time, it's essential. Okay. And it's so very important that I often have to remind them, we're doing this for an important reason. We're doing this because this is the way you want your brain to grow and change. If you want to develop healthy new brain pathways, you want them to be positive pathways, right? This is the kind you want. So let's do that. And so we're not doing this for any Pollyanna kind of reason. We're doing this for good, solid reasons to build. Okay. And this is something that they know. We know this in general, but we don't apply it. And so it's reminding them, we all work better from praise, from successes and wins. We all work better from that, but we forget, and we somehow think that beating ourselves up is going to help us do better. It's never, ever going to do that, especially for our ADDers, ever. So just the reminder of that. So just to quickly finish up, just a reminder, here at ADCO, we've created this, everything starts with the lens, as David said last time, everything. We can't ever take it off. But then safety also has to be so very core. We've got to start with it in the conversation. We've got to have it throughout, and we've got to continue it forever. Clients have to feel safe in every sense of the word. And then the other essentials come into play, equally essential. But I think of safety as essential. I can't even say it any other way. But for me, these two, I guess, are the ones that set ADHD coaching apart. Because if you can't create safety and hear through an ADD lens, you don't have ADHD coaching. Because if you can't hear the ADHD and create a safe environment for that person to be heard and understood, then they're not going to get what they need. They're not going to feel like you can help them. And that's what we're here for. That's what PAC is here for, is to truly help a person feel heard and understood and feel that they can use their brain to good advantage. And that's what we want. So safety for me is about presence. How do we show up understanding our clients and caring for our clients? For me, it's about adoring our clients. I don't know if that's a correct word to use, but adoring them so much and giving them so much credit that they can feel that from minute one, and know that I'm here for them. They can say anything, and I'm going to get it. And if I may not get their exact experience, but I get what the ADHD has done, if you will, and I can ask the right question to help them begin to understand their brain and work with it. Because that's ultimately what we want to help them do, is appreciate that their brain is perfectly wonderful and they can work with it. to do just about anything, instead of fight against it, and which is what they're often doing when they come. So that's the essence of it for me. So that's what I had to offer. And so I'm going to leave it there and see what kind of questions. I hope this was useful for you. So, Catherine, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. Look at all the, oh, look, we got exploding hearts, and this is great. Thank you, Barbara. I really feel how foundational safety is, especially, and the use of the ADHD lens, and why, if you don't have safety, you have nothing.
You have nothing.
You have nothing. You have nothing. So thank you. We will, people, for if you want to review some of this again in a few days, we will put this on the website. And what you do is you go to the PAC website, which is www.paccoaches.org. And then you will see a banner at the top of the page. It will have Barbara's picture, and it will let you review this again. Oh, it's a cute picture. It's a cute picture. And so we're going to take some questions now. I'm going to give you a minute to put into the chat some questions that you have. And I just wanted to ask a question of Barbara, because I don't know how many of you know that Barbara is one of the founders of PAC. Barbara, David, I believe Hannah too.
Mm-hmm.
And Hannah, thank you very much. Hannah is here with us today. Founded PAC, and I'll give you a second to think about this, but how do PAC and the concept of safety intersect?
I think that's, I think for me, that was the driving force. I had too many clients show up saying, another coach fired me because I may not be coachable. They fired me because, they didn't understand me, or I couldn't do what they wanted, and so I must be broken. But, that's what drove us to create PAC, is there were too many coaches out there hurting people. And that couldn't be. That should never be. And that was the driving force right there. We had to have well-trained, qualified coaches who aren't going to hurt people. And that was the essence of it right there. I hated getting those calls. It cut deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to stop. And that's what drove us to start PAC.
Thank you very much. That's true. And I feel that's part of our mission when we have board meetings. That's what we talk about. How do we protect our ADHD clients? There are so many people who call themselves ADHD coaches, have no coach training, have, say, my kids have ADHD, therefore I must be an expert, and don't have the training. And that is what we look for in PAC, and why we credential and have such a stringent qualification process, a credentialing process. And to protect our clients is our driving mission. And thank you for telling me that, because that's the foundation upon which it was built.
It absolutely is. Life coaching is wonderful, but it doesn't understand this brain, and you've got to understand what you're hearing, or you're not going to help people. So it's right at the core. Yeah.
Right.
PAC was built. Every time I try to talk, I erase myself from this class. I have to keep coming back, but that's ADD. I think it was built on a foundation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank God. PAC was built on a foundation of integrity. That's what was missing, and compassion.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you,
Connie.
Hannah. That's absolutely true.
Very
That's
nice.
absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, let's turn
Very
this
nice.
over then, Deirdre. You're going to take over and help introduce some of the questions and stories that are appearing in the chat. If
Yes.
that-
For those of you who joined a little later, please use chat to ask questions. And if you are not familiar with Google Meets, if you look down at the bottom of your screen off to the right, you'll see a little dialog box. It's after the kind of double people. And you can open that up and type your questions in there. And while we're waiting, I'm going to share what Roger DeWitt said. Barbara, you are amazing. You have forgotten more about ADHD than I will ever know. You are an absolute wonder.
Roger's very sweet.
Don't you dare deflect that, Barbara. Don't you dare deflect that.
I just, it's a passion. I think that's obvious.
So it looks like we're having some interesting stories, Deirdre.
I'm not really getting many questions. Whoops, here's something. Let me see. I'm not a fast reader. Let's see. Okay, let's see.
Okay. There's some actually interesting stories here. Is it okay if we share some, like from
Yeah, please go
Tanya?
ahead.
Sure.
Tanya said, I had a client that told me he chose me because when he told me he felt like he missed a class that everyone else went to, I told him he did due to ADHD and that I understood. And no one had ever validated him in this feeling before.
Yeah.
I think we all have stories. Jim also says, absolutely. I have clients disclose stuff that makes no difference to how I coach them, but it is disclosed to check the trust in our relationship.
That's right. That's right. I often tell the story of a mother who contacted me and talked to me about her son. And she told me several things about her son. And I finally stopped her, and she'd already told me his age. And I stopped her and said, how old is he really? And she was in tears and said no one had ever asked her that before. And she then told me his mental age, developmental age. And she knew exactly that he was 3 or 4 years behind his physical age. But just by my asking that question, she knew how much I knew and understood, and no one else, no other professional had ever asked and understood that developmental delay. And just that alone helped her to feel heard and understood. And that's something we've known for a long, long time. Was such a simple thing, but it made all the difference to her, to just feel understood, just one simple question. And that's what I mean in creating safety. It could be something as simple as that, to feel heard. Yeah.
So somebody had asked what sorts of things make it hard for coaches to create safety. Do you want to speak to that a little bit? What makes it hard to create safety? While you're thinking, I'm gonna say, I feel for me, it's like a presence that I bring into the space. This sort of open-hearted, I'm gonna see you and accept you, no matter what you say or how you act.
When I see someone who's got an agenda and is pushing it and is just determined to, well, just push and just do it, you can do it. It's still that, well, I just, I just want you to try harder and just use these simple solutions. I still see coaches trying to just get them to do the neurotypical thing. They're not really listening to the person and understanding that the brain is neurodiverse. If that kind of coach is responding that way, that person's definitely not feeling safe or heard. And that will obviously not create safety. The client will immediately go into being polite and literally shut right down. And you can tell instantly, I've lost that person. But the coach usually is clueless. If I'm watching it, I can see that the client has just given up and they're then polite. But they're like, this person doesn't get me. This is not going to work. But they'll be polite. But they know they're not being understood.
I have,
I just feel awful
sorry.
when I say, no, go ahead.
I have 2 more questions here. I'm going to start with the second one. Roger asked, could you speak to the balance between being direct with a client and handling rejection sensitivity?
Interesting. Usually, if I will take things on me. I will say, I feel this or that, or I sense this or that. So I sense that I'm not the right person. I sense that this isn't the way things would work for you. They can't argue with my sense. Okay. So I'm kind of taking it on me. And usually, even though they might not be happy with that, they can't really argue with my sense. And I want the best for them. They can hear that. I want the very best for you, and my sense is I'm not it. Or, so that's typically how I handle it. I don't know, Roger, if that's what you're thinking, but I'm not rejecting them. I'm saying I want the best, and I'm not it, kind of thing. And that usually works. So
One of the things that one of the challenges I've always had is I'm very direct as an individual, and I've had to temper that. And yet I find, even though when I temper it, sometimes just an observation, there's this, sometimes when people are in deep rejection sensitivity mode, they take that in, and then I feel like we lose the safety because they have just taken it in a particular way. And all I do is I hold that space for them to be where they are and invite them to, to inquire as needed. But I just wondered if there was, how you saw the relationship between rejection sensitivity and safety.
Again, I would still say, even if you're direct, I would say, I would still bring it to me. My sense is, and then say the direct statement. My sense is this, so that it's got a little bit of softening to it, Roger. If you can get that little piece in there, so it doesn't feel quite as direct, but I think that softens it a little bit.
That's actually perfect. I hear exactly what you're saying, so I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's sometimes you have to go right at it and say, I'm not trying to trigger any rejection here. My sense is just that this isn't quite right for, or something like that. So you go right at it sometimes and say, this isn't what I'm trying to do. However, blah, blah, blah. So you can do that too sometimes. It's all in the come from. So again, you've always got to start from, Where am I coming from? Am I holding them in my heart? Do they feel where I'm coming from? Am I coming from the wanting the best from them? Am I speaking from my highest self to their best highest self? If I'm doing that, it's going to come out far better. And that means we got to take care of ourselves and breathe.
Great. Deirdre, there's a question that was very early on
Yes, I was.
members.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you approach celebration when every time you congratulate them, they say not to, and will preface good news with a request not to celebrate?
Again, I will give them some of the neuroscience. It's like, okay, I hear that you don't want to celebrate. So what would you like to do to take this in? Because you did it, you deserve it, okay? And we've got to do this in some way. So I'm going to cajole, but I'm not going to accept that we're not going to do it. So we have to. And one of the other things I will do sometimes is, okay, when you think about doing this good thing, you took the time and effort to do it. So there was some value to you to do it. What was that? How did you actually feel when you did it? Okay, can you get into that feeling a little bit? Okay, when you did that, did it feel good? Did you feel better when you did it? Okay, good. Or did you feel worse when you did it? Okay, you felt better. Great. That's the feeling. Just be in that feeling a little bit. That can be the celebration at first. Because what we're trying to do is learn the difference between lifting you up and dragging you down. Because the more we can lift you up, the better we're putting your brain in a good space. Okay? We've got to learn that distinction. And that's important because language matters. And if you're talking to yourself with healthy language, it should lift you up. If you're talking to yourself with negative language, you can feel it drags you down. And when you're using self-critical words, those words fill your working memory and don't let good words in. So we don't want to use self-critical words. Okay? And that's why we want to use positive ones and celebratory words and let those fill the working memory and be sticky in there. Okay? That's the neuroscience. Wasn't that complicated?
Yeah.
Barbara, I just want to jump in. Do you have an extra few minutes? We have just a couple more questions. Could you stay a little bit?
Sure.
But let me say, for those of you who have to jump off, the closing word. The closing word is safety. The topic of today's presentation. So safety is the closing word. It is also written in somewhere in the chat, but in case you don't know how to spell safety.
Thank you all for coming.
This was wonderful,
Um,
Barbara. Thank you so much, everybody. I just want to add one thing. If you don't know, if you're afraid of wording something that might hurt someone, I always word it in the form of question.
Hmm?
You know, so just, whatever you're talking about, what is that doing for you, or like that. A question about how about getting to the bottom of their thinking, and that avoids any hurt. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Very nice, Hannah.
Thank you. Deirdre, did you want to pick another question? There's one from Alex.
Could you? So let's see. I'm sort of a little lost here because I've been typing.
Okay, let me ask one from Alex. Hi, then, if that's okay.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Barbara, next week I am presenting about ADHD coaching to a group of coaches who do not specialize in ADHD. Any advice for me?
If they have ADD clients, which they all do, encourage them to get trained because they're all out of ethical. They're all out of ethical violation if they are working with ADDers and don't have training. Let them know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll guarantee they all have 30% at least of ADDers in their practices, whether they know it or not. I'll guarantee it. So encourage them to get some training.
Good job. Good answer. Do you want to ask more questions, Deirdre?
Sure. We already asked that. I'm going to ask you again because you're keeping track of this a little bit differently than I have been.
Okay. What sorts of things make it hard for coaches to create safety? From Jennifer.
Make it hard to create safety. Well, one is not taking care of yourself, not being keeping up with the science and not understanding the ADHD, knowing it deeply, I think is one. Not really tuning in to what the client is actually saying and being really, really curious. Not paying attention to the little offhand statements and comments and the body language from ADDers. They will say things, you'll hear a small laugh at the end of comments. Sometimes they'll say something and then there'll be a little chuckle at the end, and you're like, they just negated whatever they said. And if you don't pay attention to that and ask, you've missed something, right? And you need to check and see, or the way they talked or energy changed, you need to ask about that because there's information there. One that I've been hearing a lot lately is clients are saying to me, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe that's the other. They're guessing. They have no idea. They're trying to make up a story because they don't know what's happening. You can't, just because they're saying maybe it's procrastination or maybe it's this or that, they don't know. They're just guessing. You can't just accept what they're saying. It's not that we don't believe them, but we know that they don't understand. They're just guessing. So we've got to listen through story. And if you're not paying attention and just accept what they're saying, you're not going to help them. So we've got to listen so very carefully, and that's part of presence and listening, and all of that is about safety. If you haven't done that, they're not going to feel safe because they're not going to feel heard.
Great.
I hope that helps.
Yeah. Meredith has asked us, one of my favorite ADHD coaching questions I ever heard. How are you going to disrupt the neurotypical world and way of things?
That sounds like fun. And that's one of my favorite questions is how are you going to make that fun? I ask clients all the time, how are you going to make that fun? Because they so often come in and tell me, oh, it's going to be hard. They think everything has to be a struggle. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be. How can we make this fun? We've got to invite them to do things their natural way and to realize that they can be playful and creative. How can they use their creativity? Too often they're not allowing themselves to do things the way their brain works. And we want to encourage them to do that. So that's one of my questions I ask a lot is how can we make this fun? How can we make it easy? I think it's something we ought to ask more than we do. But that's a great question. Great question.
And I think we have one last question. I should tell you, there's lots of thank you. Barbara is a font of wisdom. I miss ADCA classes with Barbara and Roger. This is a question from Rosemary. Barbara, what do you suggest we do when our clients use a term they picked up on Reddit that we truly don't understand?
I guess I don't know if I would even respond. I don't know. There's so much bad knowledge out there I think I might if it's an influencer, I think I might respond and say that, I don't know what that is or whatever. It depends. I don't know if I would even respond and give it air. I'm not sure. I guess I'd have to see the situation. I'm not sure, Rosemary. There's so much terminology right now and different language. I guess I would do a little research to see if I was just behind first. But I don't know what the term. I guess I would have to see. But there's a lot of terminology out there that's just, we're putting labels on everything, and labels can be useful, but they can also be destructive. So we want to be careful with them. If they help a person to feel heard and understood and recognized, that's great. But if we don't want them using any label as an excuse or a crutch. So we've got to be careful with language. We really do. Language can be incredibly powerful, but we also have to be careful with it.
Also, I would ask them, what do you mean by that? What are you trying to say when you say
Sure.
use that term? So, because it might be
Yeah,
totally
you
innocent.
never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that concludes our presentation
Okay.
for today. I'd like to thank Meredith Nauer and Deirdre Donchian for helping facilitate this entire presentation. And most of all, how can we thank Barbara enough for her continuing passion for the ADHD community and her research and her teaching and so much that she contributes. I think she fights for the ADHD coaching community in ways that many of us don't know. She's behind the scenes pulling lots of strings on our behalf. And I thank you so much for this extensive and meaningful look into safety, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it was good to see everybody. And thanks, Hannah, for coming too. It was great to see Hannah too.
Barbara,
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. We'll see you on June 21st with Liz Brown, MCAC, who's going to talk about collaboration. You'll hear from us soon about that. So thank you all, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Catherine, you have a second?
Yeah, I do. How are you?
Okay, how are you? Great. It's always
I-
great to see that smile.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see you pop on. How are you?
Good. I just have a question about that. Oh, I lost you for a second. So
I'm
it
here.
took me 20 minutes to get in because it didn't accept my password and I just created a new one. So I don't know if it's fair to get the credit or not. Should I?
Sure,
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
I really was here. It just took me 20 minutes.
I know.
Or 18
Some people-
minutes to get in.
Oh, gosh.
So I'll get to
Well, no
listen to
problem.
Barbara when you put it up. I'll listen to the
Yeah.
beginning part. But
Great. Sure.
this was great. This was great.
she the
Well done,
best?
you guys. Oh my God. So much more. The topic of safety, but what did we get? 100% more than what you, such a great learning. Anyway, thank you. And good luck with your presentation.
Liz, no, I'm not. It's Liz. It's Liz Brown.
No, you said you're giving a presentation to a group of non-ADHD coaches.
No, that was Alex. Hi. Alex.
Oh, you were reading it for
I was
somebody
reading
else.
a question. I was reading a question for somebody else. That
Oh,
would
well,
be
good luck to him then.
good luck to him. Yeah, he's a wonderful presenter. So I'm sure they'll do well. I'm sure
Okay.
they'll do well.
All righty. I
It's
won't
good to
keep
see you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. We have a few people here.